Companies in Singapore will face stiffer fines for data breaches. They must also notify those affected if the leaks contain sensitive details such as financial information. Well, Singapore's updated data protection law has passed in Parliament. It also applies to individuals who abuse data or handle them recklessly. The new law allows consumers to request for a copy of their personal data to be sent from one organization to another. That means they won't have to re-enter them all over when switching service providers. Still, such personal data can be used by organizations without consent for things like detecting payment fraud or to help with investigations. Other changes include expanding spam controls to instant messaging platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger to let consumers choose not to receive spam commercials.
Indeed,
over a dozen MPs debated on the bill, raising questions like whether heavier fines and new rules such as data portability will mean more costs for businesses.
We are only starting to see the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic unraveling and facing a probable imminent global recession. These amendments will necessitate changes in the organization's policies, systems, and processes. With organizations already trying to cope with stretched resources and trying to avoid going belly up, measures such as stiffer fines for data breaches or making it mandatory for organizations to notify the PDPC may seem counterproductive.
Businesses, especially SMEs, sole proprietorships and some not-for-profit organizations, may experience difficulties in adhering to these new, more rigorous regulations. I would like to ask when this bill will come into effect. And would the government consider allowing for a transition or grace period?
We intend for the revised penalty caps, the financial penalty caps, to take effect no earlier than 1 year after the Act comes into force. And the Minister has the discretion under the Act to review the effective date. So we will be informed by the overall circumstances because we are conscious of not wanting to unduly burden our companies. The revised cap will apply to breaches that occur after the effective date. We have basically intend to help organizations with this new obligation and introduce the data portability obligation in phases, and will issue regulations and advisory guidelines to provide clarity.
MPs also asked whether the new laws will protect consumers effectively. They say many, including those on a do not call registry, still get unsolicited calls and messages, some from scammers.
Many of these fraudulent messages are from overseas sources, and some phone numbers have been spoofed to conceal the perpetrator's actual number. As such, it is impossible to report them to the authorities or to block them on your handphone.
Mr. Iswaran said the government will fight overseas spam with a mix of international collaboration, industry self-regulation and public education. Meantime, for scams, the police will continue working with foreign law enforcement agencies to investigate and cripple syndicates.